Alright, so yesterday I had you practice drawing some really simple basic shapes and forms, and in this lesson we're going to quickly review that again, but then we're going to take a little step further and find an object to draw and put those all together. Going to dissect the object into those simple basic forms and then reassemble it again in my drawing. So one real quick review of our basic geometric shapes and forms. Mostly our forms. We're going to start with a cylinder first. So remember, when you see a cylinder, from the top it looks like a circle, but from the side it's going to that circle's going to kind of flatten into an ellipse or an oval. So that's what I'm going to start off with as my base is my ellipse. I'm going to drop two straight lines down, and then the bottom of course is a circular base as well, so that's going to be curved at the bottom. If I was to give it some dimension to it and make it look like it has like shadows and light source to it, if my light was hitting the front of it, then the sides might have some shadows as it moves away from the light. If it was a see-through object, I might see the back ellipse of that, but you want to make your front edge a little bit darker. When it comes to a sphere, same thing. I have to consider my light source. So with that circle, it's just going to look flat and two-dimensional. So if I think about where my light's coming from, if my light source is over here, the opposite side is going to be a lot darker. So I'm going to put a quick shadow in here. Think about how the sunlight hits the earth. The opposite side of the earth, not facing the sun, of course, is going to be darker at nighttime. And then as we get closer to the sun, it's going to get lighter and lighter and lighter. So I'm going to lighten up my pressure a little bit until the sun hits it directly, or the light source hits it directly, and then we would have like that highlight here where it's completely white and it reflects all light. And kind of smear it. We could talk about cast shadows and things like that, but just a simple little shading of a sphere, real easy, just by making the one side darker and then gradually getting it lighter until it gets to that highlight. Next, when it comes to the cone starts with a triangular base, and then triangular top I should say, but the base becomes circular, so we're going to draw that ellipse at the bottom. If I want to add some dimension to it again, thinking about where my light source is, the opposite side away from the light is going to be darker. If this is my front edge, I'll darken that up, and then again if it's a see-through object, then we might see the back of that ellipse as well. Next, a triangular prism. So when I have a triangular prism, I'm going to first start with the base of my triangle. I'm going to see the opposite side as it kind of recedes in space. See that third dimension? So I have my height, I have my width, and then I have that depth there too, being it's the third dimension. Finally, we have the cube. So different perspectives you can see a cube from. If I'm going to see the front of the face of it, I start off with my square. Quick trick, instead of using linear perspective, which I'll teach my 7th graders later on, my 8th graders should already know a lot of that, but the cube in the background is if I connect my vertices of my triangle to the back corners. That's one way to draw a cube, and then I could simply, the way the light's hitting it would have a shadow on the side that's not facing the light. And then another quick way that you learned in the one video is if I'm seeing the corner of that cube, almost looks like an arrow as the lines kind of recede back in space, and then the top of a Y, and then with our parallel lines we're going to connect those two, and then they kind of meet in the back. Oh, but I ran out of space there. Okay, and then I could add some shadow to that one side as well. So using all those forms, we're going to find as many of those forms as we can in drawing this bottle. So with the bottle here, the first thing that I'm going to do is kind of dissect it into those different forms. The base here of this bottle I see as a cylinder. I then connected to the top of it is kind of a sphere, or half of a sphere. It then kind of emerges into another cylinder here, with another fatter cylinder on top of it, but shorter. And then the cork is kind of cylindrical, but almost kind of conical as well. In order to be inserted into the bottle itself, it has to have a bit of an angle to it. So we can kind of think of it as kind of a cone, or kind of a tapered cylinder as well. So however you like to describe it, you can do it that way. So we're going to start with the very biggest form first, which is the body of the jar, and I'm going to start with my cylinder. So same thing when I did my little drawings here. I'm going to draw my cylinder. I might draw it a little bit bigger than the bottle itself is here. Again, starting off with my ellipse, keeping my arm kind of loose and lightly putting it in there until I find the path that I want. I'm going to have two lines going straight up and parallel from that. Alright, once I get to the top of that, I start to see it curve into this kind of half of a sphere. So I know that my sphere is going to be kind of circular here, so from the tangent here, outside edge, the contour of that bottle, I'm going to start creating that rounded dome here. It almost becomes kind of a half of a sphere. You start seeing the top of that kind of cylinder there. So I have my kind of ellipse there. I'm then going to see how it kind of tapers into my cylinder. So thinking about the width of it, I would say that the width of the neck is about 1/3 of the width of the bottle. So if I divide this bottle into three equal sections, 1, 2, 3, I would think that the bottle, or the neck of the bottle, is going to be about 1/3 of that. I kind of go from that perspective, thinking about my proportions and how everything kind of fits together to make it look kind of realistic. So I'm going to go in and put my neck in there. I see the top part of my ellipse again for my oval at the top. That next cylinder is going to be a little bit fatter as I move out from there. So I'm going to draw another ellipse that comes out just a little bit further than the edge of the neck. It has a little bit of thickness to it. It's not as thick obviously as the neck underneath it, so it's kind of a squashed cylinder. I have that at the top. I see that hole or opening where you would insert the cork at the top there as well, and then I finally have my cork. When I start with my cork here, again, it has to be wider than this hole. That's how it can sit snugly inside of that bottle. So I'm going to make it a little bit wider than it is here, and then like I talked about before, it kind of tapers in as a cylinder. So I'm going to not put parallel lines, but I'm going to put lines kind of tapering in or angling inward. And then I see, at least from my perspective, I probably see this a little bit differently than you do from where my camera is and where I'm sitting, but I see the bottom of that cork slightly down there as well. So there's some other things that I need to see that I need to change or adjust, just because the bottle doesn't have this nice sharp corner to it. It's going to just gradually emerge and converge with this sphere here. So I'm going to just make a nice little transition and curve this inward so it's not this sharp angle, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. So what I'm hoping that you see here, I might lighten that up a little bit. I'm hoping you see here is that how we can take those really simple geometric forms and put them together after we've kind of seen and dissected them in the actual object, and get a fairly good looking representation of what that object actually looks like as we kind of piece it back together as a puzzle. So hopefully this has helped. Choose another object in your house that you'd like to kind of find those simple geometric forms from and put them back together. Maybe you want to build a crayon, so you have it could be a really small object. And think about how the top of the crayon is kind of a cone and then emerges downwards, and then there's another cylinder, and it kind of continues and tapers out from there too. So find other objects and see what you can draw. I look forward to seeing your drawings.